smells so nice.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 42 of the Sew Not Scary series. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how I've discovered a hack to sew even very thin fabrics with your mini sewing machine. So let's go ahead and get started. Recently, I've been getting a lot of comments from some lovely viewers who have said that they are trying to sew thin fabrics with this machine and they're really struggling. And while the fact is that, yeah, this mini sewing machine is not equipped to deal with thin fabrics, what do you do when you really do want to make a project like that, utilizing very thin fabrics? So that's what we're going to deal with today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here in my hands is something that looks like plastic sheeting, okay? And if I open this out for you, you will see it's see-through like plastic, and it kind of makes a wrinkly noise like plastic. It's got one side which is slightly grainy and the other side which is slightly smooth. And if you're not familiar with this is called stabilizer. And stabilizers are of different types. This one is called water soluble stabilizer, and specifically it's used for embroidery. Okay, so if you've got an embroidery machine, you would be expected to stabilize your fabric using this stabilizer. Okay, now I had a piece of this lying around in my stash, and yesterday I was experimenting with it, and I experimented late into the night, and I actually kind of got really good results with it. This fabric, if you've seen this video, might appear familiar to you. This is something that we experimented with in that video with horrible results. Okay, actually with a stabilizer, sewing improves significantly. Okay, but what do you do if you don't have this fancy water soluble stabilizer? This is a specialist material, and if you live somewhere where it's not easy to find sewing supplies, haberdashery supplies, what do? Okay, I've got a solution for that as well. Look at this. Now it kind of looks similar to this, but essentially this is just a plastic bag. Okay, and last night I experimented with something similar with really good results. Okay, so today that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use a bit of this, and also we're gonna use a bit of this water soluble stabilizer and see what our mini sewing machine does. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here it is. Here's our really fine chiffon georgette fabric. Okay, it's very lightweight, very see-through, and very sheer. Okay, and this machine recommends that we must not sew fabrics like these because the machine is simply not capable of dealing with them. But we're going to try today and actually sew this. So I've cut this up into a little rectangle, and what I want to do is make a little pouch out of it to put inside my linen cupboard. So the first thing I want to do is actually hem the top. So I'm going to fold it over like this, and maybe one more time, and I'm gonna just pin this down. Okay, and then we'll take the whole thing over to our mini sewing machine. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let me quickly show you how we're gonna deal with this. That's the pin down material I just showed you, and here I've got a thin strip of the water soluble tearaway stabilizer I just showed you. And last night I was experimenting with it, and actually it was performing best when I placed it underneath the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to first place this down, put my fabric on top of it like so. I hope you guys can see it. Okay, and this is how we're going to carry it to our mini sewing machine and place it underneath the presser foot, starting from here. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so our project is underneath the presser foot. Okay, there is that little stabilizer sheet underneath it. Okay, we're gonna switch on the light, and I'm just gonna sew a nice straight stitch as best as possible. Today I'm not using my sewing thread guide that we used in this video. Okay, just to keep it simple, and let's see how we perform. Here we go. Okay, so here it is, our stitched hem, and I've deliberately not backstitched or knotted anything on either end, and that's because I will be enclosing these edges in a French seam. Well, that's the plan at least, so I'm not going to bother with knotting any threads, okay? So let me just snip away these extra lengths of threads and let's analyze what we've done so far. So we just did a straight stitch. It's not particularly neat because we were not using a seam guide, but look, there's hardly any puckering, and if you flip it over, look at that. It's stitched right through. I don't see any skip stitches, okay? It actually dealt with the stabilizer and the fine material really well. So now we're gonna try and remove this. And last night I was experimenting with it, and I think the trick is not to stretch the stabilizer. So you wanna take a sharp pair of scissors and make a cut just going up to the stitch line, okay, from one side. And if it's stretching like this, do you see it stretching? This shouldn't happen, so make a nick again, okay? It should kind of have a clean cut. Do you see that little nick there? Right there, okay? We're gonna try and tearing it now, okay? There we go. It tears away really cleanly, okay? So that one's done, and the other side should just come away very easily. Do you see how easily it's lifting away? A little bit of resistance there. But look, we managed to sew this really sheer fabric. Look how thin it is, okay? It's a chiffon georgette on our mini sewing machine, and now we're going to finish sewing our project. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first line of stitching came through beautifully. Even with this mini sewing machine, we managed to sew through this sheer fabric. So everyone who's been struggling, take heart, there is hope yet, okay? Now what I intend to make with this little fabric piece is a little pouch of lavender flowers, okay? Now sheer fabrics tend to fray a lot, so if I show you the edging, or the edge, look, okay, it frays a lot, okay? What I want to do is create a French seam. Essentially, French seams are seams which are stitched twice. Once from the right side and then from the wrong side, so that you completely enclose the raw edge and you've got a neat finish both on the inside and outside your project, okay? So this is the right side of the project, and as you can see, this is the wrong side. What I want to do is first sew it on the right side of the fabric like that, okay? And what I want to do is basically sew a nice straight stitch all the way down here and down here, okay? So I'm gonna pin this up, come back to you and show you what we're gonna do next. That's my plastic bag, and I'm gonna treat it just like I treated the stabilizer. So I'm gonna cut up a piece of it so I can place it underneath my stitch line, and that's how we're gonna sew. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so take a look at this. I've cut up my big plastic bag into small little wee pieces because I'm making a small little project, okay? So it's just two little rectangles that I'll be working with right now. So let's go ahead and assemble our project. Okay, so here's a pin project. I know right now it looks like a hot mess. There's no structure to it right now, but I promise it's gonna get better. It's just a simple plastic bag cut up into a little rectangle, and what I plan to do is lay my project down on top of it and then sew a straight line down like that and then like that as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so my project is under the presser foot, and before I begin I want to take care of three things, okay? Number one, keep your thread tails long. Look how long my thread tails are, okay? They're a good 6 inches long, and if you've seen this video you will see that we keep these long so we can manually and very securely knot our project after we're done stitching, okay? So that's number one, keep it long. Number two, keep your seam allowance really wide. So look where my presser foot is compared to the edge. It's way on the inside, and that's done deliberately because we will be sewing it twice. So first I'm going to sew it here, trim the edges, and then sew over it again from the other side. So we need to have enough space there to be able to trim it, okay? So keep a broad seam allowance. And number 3 is look at the placement of my needle. It's actually right now not inside the fabric, it's just on the outside of the fabric, inside the plastic sheeting, okay? So when we start sewing, the first stitch is actually going to be on the plastic itself, so that we can then enter our fabric completely from the edge. I'm going to take my second piece of plastic now and insert it underneath the fabric to make sure we've got stabilizer everywhere. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we've stitched so far. So on top you can see, even though the fabric is super thin, the stitches came through beautifully. And let's flip it over. Look at that. Do you see? Not a single skip stitch. Yeah, my sewing lines are not perfectly straight, but look at the actual stitch line. There is no skip stitches, and it just sewed beautifully. So just like we removed the other stabilizer, we're going to make a little nick. Sorry if the camera moved. Little nick, we're going right up to the stitch line and try and tear it away. Okay, so now I've knotted the thread ends here and here, and I've snipped away the extra thread. Now this is where the French seams come in, okay? What we have to do is take a sharp pair of scissors and clip the fabric very close to our stitch line, okay? So I've got a sharp pair of scissors and I'm going to attempt to clip it as close as possible. Now I'm going to flip the whole project inside out. We now have to sew another line just on the inside edge, okay? And closing all those raw edges inside that seam, okay? So I'm going to very gently press it so that we've got a nice flat project, and then we'll start sewing. Okay, so I'm going to do that on my steam iron. I'm going to do that off camera and then come back and show you what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm back from pressing the project, and now the plan is that we're going to do a top stitch very close to the edge and closing the raw seam. Do you see the raw seam on the inside? Okay, we're going to enclose this raw edge by sewing just beyond it, okay, along these edges. So now I'm going to remove this plastic film and knot the threads, okay? So this is the inside, and now can you see there are no raw edges to the fabric? Because we enclosed all the raw edges already. So we're going to flip this inside out. And look at that. Look how neat the seams are, okay? Even with my wonky, horrible sewing, it's still like a very, very tidy project. Even for someone with beginner level skills like myself, okay? I still consider myself a beginner because my sewing is fairly untidy, but look at that. So on the inside it's very neat, no raw edges, okay? And on the outside, look how pretty it is. And we stitched this on our mini sewing machine. So let's turn this into a little lavender pouch for my linen cupboard. So I'm gonna take some flowers, and these are dried lavender flowers I ordered online on eBay, I think, and they smell beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna put some of these in here, and now I'm gonna tie this up with this little cord. Look at that! Look how cute that looks! It's a cute little pouch, lots of lavender flowers inside, and it's made out of chiffon. Okay, let's go and put it inside the linen closet. It smells so nice. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I shall see you next time. Bye!